Thank you very much, Freak. I am indeed standing by with Prey. Congratulations on making it to the semifinal. I first want to ask you about the series, and specifically after the 2-0, you guys looked set to take it 3-0. You picked a Fiora, looked very comfortable, then let Deft have Caitlyn in game 4. Does that reflect how confident you guys were that you could pick up the win here?
우선 4강치를 축하드립니다. 이제 2대0으로 이길 때까지만 하더라도 이제 3경기에 끝날 줄 알았는데 3경기에 피오라를 고르고 이제 4경기에는 데프트한테 선수한테 케이틀린을 쥐어주면서 살짝 자신감의 표출이 아니었나 싶은데요. 어떤 생각 말씀해 주세요. 네.
일단 케이틀린 같은 경우에는 뭐 자신감 이런 걸 떠나서 그냥 나눠 먹는 픽이라고 생각을 했고요. 피오라 같은 경우에는 이제 경호가 이 경기를 이기고 나서 이제 좀 자신감이 좀 차서 한 것 같은데. 네, 그 약간 4경기까지 어떻게 가게 되면서 경호가 조금 미안하다고 하더라고요. 네.
So about the Caitlyn pick, it's more of a like splitting ADCs among teams, so not much of a confidence thing. But about the Fiora, after winning game 2, Smed was full of confidence, and he really wanted to play Fiora. But after game 3, going to game 4, Smed, he was really sorry about that game result.
Well, you guys still won in the end, and now you have some time to recover and build up towards that semifinal versus your LCK nemesis, SK Telecom. A huge matchup. Can you speak to how important, how crucial that matchup is for you and the Rox Tigers, and how much it would mean to be able to win and go to the final?
이제 4강전에서는 가장 락스타이거즈 숙적인 SK텔레콤 팀과 붙게 되었는데 이 SK텔레콤전이 얼마나 중요하고 이기는 게 얼마나 큰 의미가 프레이 선수랑 락스타이거 팀한테 있는지 말씀해 주세요.
일단 저희가 우승하기 위해서는 당연히 이렇게 거쳐야 될 상대라고 생각을 하고요. 좀 결승전에서 만났으면 좋았을 팀인데 이미 같은 조에서 배정된 건 좀 어쩔 수 없더라고요. 그래서 뭐 최선을 다해서 한국 가지 않도록 노력하겠습니다.
So I think it would have been better if we were able to play against them at the finals, but I can't do much about the group draws. But I think we're going to try really hard, and we'll try our best not to go to Korea and New York City.
Okay, and go to New York City, yeah. Final question. It always amazes me how happy you guys look on the cameras. You guys are singing all the time, even when a game isn't going that well. Can you speak to the team atmosphere in the Rox Tigers and how that's helping you put these results on the board?
락스타이거즈 팀이 유독 항상 좋은 분위기 속에서 게임을 하는 걸로 보여지는데 심지어 지고 있을 때도 막 노래를 부르고 되게 웃는 얼굴로 게임하는 모습이 매우 인상적입니다. 그 팀 분위기가 게임하는 동안에 어떤지 말씀해 주세요.
일단 보통 연습 때는 되게 즐겁게 하는 편인데 그러니까 대회 때 약간 이렇게 노래 부르고 이런 거는 저희 긴장감을 풀려고 하는 거고요. 그러니까 저희가 지고 있을 때는 그렇게 웃고 즐겁게 하지 않습니다. 이기고 있을 때만 그렇게 해요.
So during practice, we actually have a lot of fun. We sing, we play together. But during the game, we just trying to have that same atmosphere in order to be more relaxed and not be too nervous. And actually, we try to be more serious when we're losing. Only the fun mode when we're winning.
Okay, well, it was fun mode here because you guys won, and we will see you in New York City. Thank you very much, Prey. And the Rox Tigers heading into that semifinal versus SKT. Dash, take it away.
Thank you, Shocks. Only fun mode when they're winning. Well, that means they probably had a lot of fun tonight, picking up the series in 3-1 fashion against EDG, moving on to face SK Telecom in the semifinals at New York. How do we feel about the series overall?
I mean, we had the classic, sorry to jump in there, but we have the classic, play really well in 2 games, stomp the Pick a Man phase and in-game, have a little bit of fun in the 3rd game, take a chance, take a gamble. They did, obviously didn't pay off, and then go back to serious mode again in the last one. I actually think EDG had an okay draft in this game, but the play down obviously early on in the bottom lane kind of cost them everything.
Yeah, and you can see that the way this team, I actually think they took a gamble this game, and I was expecting more of them. I mean, the fact that they were willing to draft the Jace as well as the Rumble in pick ban phase to deny that, get Smeb on a different champion, was actually really fun, and I appreciate that. However, I think that you do have to set the tempo. This is an EDG lineup that was playing with an emergency substitute in the top lane, and you could see through their communication that they were no longer confident in each other after a really poor group draw. And Rox Tigers just exploited that and pulled them apart across Summoner's Rift and made them make those poor choices.
Yeah, and I really like the point of exploitation, particularly in the draft. And the final ban for Rox, they could ban either Rek'Sai, Olaf, or Caitlyn. Those are the 3 contested picks. And they said, you know what? We think that you probably prioritize the Caitlyn as you're relying on Deft to be the carry. We're going to ban out the Rek'Sai, make sure that you have to pick the Caitlyn. You put Clearlove on an uncomfortable champion like Lee Sin. And let me tell you, that was That was one spectacular Lee Sin, if to say the least.
Kind of crazy to say uncomfortable champion like
I
Lee
know.
Sin for clear love
today.
of all
For
people. But
today,
yes, I understand your meaning in that he has not been performing on that champion within this tournament. But Deficio, you mentioned the bot lane fight where it all went wrong for EDG. So let's go ahead and take a look at that one. Our only replay from this game, 9:30 into the game. It's another party in the bot lane.
Yeah, and obviously it's an engage onto a no-flash support, but then we have Peanut who's been hiding around the corner. Very smart counter gang from him, on obviously had vision on the map and could go for the counter gang, and then it's an Olaf who is so strong early on in the game who can just go crazy. And when he picks up 4 kills this early, or 3 kills in this specific fight, and then they actually get
And an assist.
the assist here, he's going to take over the game.
But you expected this out of EDG. Like, that's a great play out of the Rox Tigers, but we keep saying it. It's a telegraph play that you can pull apart because they're not going to play top side of the map. When they have a Jace, you're not really going to look mid lane. Everything is going bottom lane. And credit to the Rox Tigers for being able to recognize that. Something that teams honestly weren't doing that often against a team like EDG.
Yeah.
And coming out the better through those plays.
Yeah, and I really like their approach towards the first gank coming out from EDG. It fails, and immediately they say, you know what, we're vulnerable to the second gank. Let's make sure that we have everybody down here. Let's make sure that our TPs are ready. And we saw Ryze in the first time, he tried to move down towards the river, got caught in a fight with the Jace. They exchanged exhausts, and then the second time around, Ryze is able to make it there faster. Obviously, Ryze has tools to get there, whereas Jace can kind of not have that much pressure early on. And you see it pay off very well.
Yeah, and you just see a difference in impact from the two junglers. Again, I was kind of hoping the group stage was a little bit of a slump for Clearlove, and he would pick it up in a best of 5 and really be ready, but he didn't pick it up at all. He was a liability almost every single
Just like his axes, they weren't picked up.
Exactly, his axes weren't picked up either when he did play the Olaf. And this is a guy who was rated so highly coming into this tournament by all of us. And honestly, when it comes to Worlds, this guy has not been performing yet. And that is a big, big issue. And we have to tone down some of that hype in the future for sure. Because this was, honestly, a master performance from Peanut.
And yeah, I was about to say, and Spawn, we can continue this discussion about the junglers as we recognize Peanut as the player of the series here. Because, again, in the very beginning of the group stages, we definitely were a little underwhelmed by his performance. But as the tournament has ramped up, so has he.
And I'm really happy for Peanut. Obviously, those 2 games on Elise were like, oh, maybe he's coming back. And right now, the fact that he was able to bust out so many different champions, he has the Rex, he has Elise, he has Lee Sin, and now Olaf kind of taking that North American flavor, if you will, and he's able to just hard carry games.
Add that in there.
Oh, of course. I mean, give me something here, man. He's able to actually hard carry games. There's not a whole lot of junglers that can just put games that, with the help of his team, with the resources that he gets, he's able to actually influence the map so heavily.
Yeah, and both of these junglers are the X factors for the team, and both actually play with enormous pressure. I mean, Peanut, first year, we keep talking about it, wants to get there and prove that he was a good pickup over an experienced jungler like Hojin last year. Clearlove at the same time. He's pretty much the captain, the shot caller. When a player like that slumps after having a great season domestically, that does such bad things to your team. So you can kind of understand in the juxtaposition why we are celebrating Peanut's performance so highly.
And it's really been rough for EDG the last 2 Worlds we've looked at now, because they've struggled with top lanes. We had Amazing Jay and Koro last year not performing too well. Now, obviously, in this situation here, Mouse and now Koro as well. And also Clearlove last year struggled to show up. So, like, the bottom side is playing well at Worlds. The top side is just not playing well on the international stage in these 2 big, very big tournaments.
Not necessarily coming together on the big stage for EDG, but definitely so for the Rox Tigers. And now with the majority of our semifinalists locked in, let's go ahead and take a look at the tournament bracket. Samsung Galaxy, SK Telecom, T1, and Rox Tigers will move on to compete at New York City's famous Madison Square Garden as they race for the Summoners Cup. And of course, join us tomorrow as we book the final ticket to New York. We'll kick things off at 3 Pacific, where H2K squares off with Albus Nox Luna for that last slot in the semifinals. So, gentlemen, I want to do a little bit of a preview here. I mean, both of these teams, people were not even sure they would make it to the quarterfinals in their group. People were looking at AHQ maybe over H2K. And then, of course, Albus Nox came out of nowhere and surprised many. But our thoughts here.
Well, H2K has just been looking unstoppable, particularly their laning phase. I don't think that there's any team that's able to really keep up in terms of individual performances in all of them. And I really like the fact that Ryu has just showed up, a guy that in the EU LCS is just like, meh. And then now, right now, he's able to actually get the team in a 4-0 in the group stage week 2. And I look forward to seeing him do the same in this actual quarterfinals.
That's what I love about H2K right now, is every lane is performing. Yankos is showing up in the jungle as well. Vander and Forgiven were slow when they got back together in playoffs in Europe. It was fine. It wasn't fantastic just yet. The way they've been playing right now is like they're among the absolute best bot lanes in the world at the moment. And that is something H2K can use to beat Albus Nox. But Albus Nox can definitely surprise. We've seen some of the picks, we've seen some of the play styles, and you cannot underrate some of these players.
And that's the thing, right? You're going to have to actually get that advantage in the early game because Albus Nox has shown that if you get into mid game, they are very creative and that they're able to play around the map quite well. So I do think that, H2K, they're a team with such solid laners. I would not be surprised if Albus Nox didn't have something prepared for that, play directly into it, see if they can get some strong laners themselves, and then chase them around the map in the mid game.
And we've had the opportunity to speak to and hear from multiple H2K members, and all of them have said something similar. They're going to enter the best of 5 confident, but absolutely not going to overlook this team that came in and ultimately smashed a group stage, against the expectations that were set for them.
Well, they have to tread lightly because Albus Nox, as we talked about, they did win fair and square against all these teams, and especially the victory against Rox was just such a showing of a strong team that had composure even when things went wrong. They got Baron stolen, they were unable to close, team fights not going their way in certain advantage, but they just kept aggressing regardless of the itemizations that they had, and that's something that you wouldn't expect out of a wildcard team to be able to know how to do that and especially execute it so well.
I do think H2K comes in as big favorites.
Heavy favorites.
Heavy favorites. I think a lot of people would look at like a 3-0, 3-1. Obviously, we know H2K have so high highs, but also can have very low lows. If it is a bad day for them, if something goes wrong in the first game, I can see it go downhill. But I think H2K, with how good they are laning, with their understanding of the meta now in terms of the picks, should be massive favorites, and we're going to have to see what happens.
But that form has to carry over. I just want to say it one more time. With strong laners, if it falls down and your mid game and late game is still suspect, makes it hard to win games. So do I think they're going to win? Sure, I actually think this is pretty one-sided, but they do have to bring that form in. Otherwise, I think that, Albus Nox are good enough to take it to them.
One day left to go in our quarterfinals. That's going to do it for us here in Chicago. Be sure to stick around for another edition of Worlds Tonight with Riv, Clement, and Azael. Now, from all of us here in the Chicago Theater, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you tomorrow.